Hello, 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 and welcome to the Common Constitutionalist Weekly Podcast, and I am the Common Constitutionalist coming at you. And today I've got a couple of topics. One I could just describe as America taking another step toward a Soviet-style surveillance state. We'll just leave it at that for now. And the second topic is a death row inmate who was recently put to death via lethal injection and struggled and appeared to be in some pain. People are crying it's inhumane treatment. Well, we'll discuss that today on the Common Constitutionalist.
You're listening to the Common Constitutionalist, broadcast from an undisclosed location, free from the prying eyes of establishment liability.
So as I said in the opening, we just, or will be very shortly, now that the House has passed their bill, we will be very shortly taking another step toward a Soviet-style surveillance state, and they're dressing up this bill to make it sound like they're helping the children and the old folk. And that's the way it always happens, the feel-good legislation. That later on down the road, it don't feel too good. And this is by Conservative Review, and it isn't often that I go through an entire article, but this one's pretty important. So we're going to go through this entire thing, and I'll comment as I see fit. And they write, the House passed a bill Thursday morning that empowers the Department of Justice, Obama's Department of Justice still, to establish a system whereby people with autism, Alzheimer's disease, and other mental impairments are equipped with tracking devices in case they wander off. H.R. 4919 passed 346 to 66. Okay, here we go. Here's the start of it. Under a suspension of rules, meaning that no amendments to the bill could be offered. It actually is. It's worse than that. So I'll continue. Better known as Kevin and Avante's Law, named after two children with autism who wandered off and drowned. And here we go. We're gonna first we tug at the heartstrings. That's the I think there's probably a manual for this kind of stuff. How to ram through crapola legislation, and here's how to do it. And that's the first thing you do is you tug at their heartstrings. The bill allows for the Department of Justice to award $2 million in grants to help states in, quote, designing, establishing, and operating locative tracking technology programs for people with mental disabilities. So the first thing that comes to mind isn't the flowery nature of the Kevin and Avante's Law. It's not that, at least not to me. The first thing that pops up is the Department of Justice is awarding $2 million in grants. How do they get off? I mean, I know it's a moot point because that's all they do anymore is give our money away to other people, whether they deserve it or not. It's unconstitutional. And we're allowing governments to design, establish, and operate locative tracking technology for the citizens. It's for the children and the old folks. This is from our old buddy Bob Goodlatte. I wrote an article a while back, there's nothing good about Goodlatte. Well, he's reinforcing that argument right here. Quote, this legislation will assist communities in receiving valuable education on how to prevent individuals with Alzheimer's disease and children with autism from wandering, and to respond quickly and appropriately in cases in which they do, House Judiciary Chairman Bob Goodlatte, Republican of Virginia, says. So this is going to, he says that the tracking devices that are going to be, I think, implanted in people, frankly, that's the only way you're going to keep them on. But I don't know that for certain, so we'll just leave that alone for now. But how is this legislation, what did he say? Receiving valuable education on how to prevent individuals from wandering. How is a tracking device going to prevent anybody from wandering? It's not going to prevent anything. It's just going to be able to track people. But again, don't listen to the words. Only judge them on their intentions. So now we're going to have government-mandated tracking devices for Alzheimer's victims and children with autism. I wonder if they get the choice. Well, let's continue and find out, shall we? The bill has incited passion from autism and Alzheimer's advocacy groups, as well as those who are concerned about civil liberties, those whack jobs, concerned about civil liberties and government overreach. Ha! Bunch of conspiracy theorists. Last week, the bill was scheduled for a House Judiciary Committee markup, but was postponed. A conservative review report at the time stated, multiple sources, this is a quote, multiple sources on the Hill with knowledge of the situation said that the hearing was canceled after several GOP committee members voiced concerns about how the language dealt with privacy and civil liberties issues. So they were going to have a committee meeting, as they always do. That's what these bills do. They go to their committees. They get voted out of the committee, up or down. If it's an up vote, then it goes to the House for a vote. But this was postponed because they didn't think they had the votes in the committee, and whoever's trying to ramrod this sucker through, like Bob Goodlatte and some other hacks, decided that they're just going to postpone the committee meeting because they found out that they weren't going to have the votes. So they just, we're just going to change the rules. Why not? All right, now here's a good one. After the Judiciary Committee markup was canceled, the language of the Kevin and Avante's law was changed so that the tracking devices overseen by the DOJ were less permanent and less evasive than the ones originally proposed. Okay, so that begs another question. Just how permanent and just how invasive were these suckers to begin with? We may never know. But this is just scary stuff. I mean, it honestly is. I don't mean to make light of it. I'm trying to be reasonable about this and just letting everybody know what's going on. But this stuff is frightening stuff. I mean, like I said, this is another step toward a Soviet-style surveillance state. So, senior editor at Americans for Limited Government, Robert Romano, said that the language change is still not good enough. Quote, there shouldn't be any bill because there shouldn't be a program, no matter how well-intentioned, overseen by the Attorney General electronically tracking people in this manner. And bully for him for saying this. Not that it makes a hill of beans worth of difference, because they're certainly on the Hill aren't going to listen to us, and that's demonstrable by this legislation. Conservative review continues. Nevertheless, the bill was brought up for a quick vote on Thursday, the last day of the House's lame duck legislation session before the new year. So there you go. Well, I'm not done yet, but there you go. When government really, really wants to get something done, there's nothing going to stand in their way of doing so. They'll suspend rules, they'll cancel committee meetings, they'll do whatever they need to do to get their bogus legislation passed. They'll do it in the wee hours of the morning. They'll do it on the last day of the lame duck session. They don't care because they no longer represent us. They couldn't possibly with the shenanigans they pull on a regular basis up there. And to reiterate, a House source told Conservative Review that as of last week, an informal whip count of the Judiciary Committee found that a majority of members, not just a plurality, remember that from the election, but a majority of the members on the committee were opposed to the bill. Son of a gun, it still got passed, 3-something to 66 or something. They also claimed that it is extremely uncommon for a bill to bypass a committee markup in this way and be brought to the floor under suspension of rules, the source stated. What a shocker. The bill may be brought up for the Senate for a vote in the next 24 hours, where it is expected to pass with ease and head to President Obama's desk, where he will sign the surveillance legislation into law. Isn't that special? So like I said, when government wants to get stuff done, don't get in their way. They'll run your butt over. They'll run over the committee. They'll run over the rules. They'll suspend what they need to. They don't care. And CR continues, despite its swift passage through the House, concerns abound for this bill. Really shocking. Government-run tracking devices, quote, would violate the Fourth Amendment as an unreasonable search, and it would violate the Fifth Amendment. I almost said Fifth Dimension, that group, whatever. Would violate the Fifth Amendment's deprivation of liberty without due process, says Romano. It's a human tracking device bill, which is exactly what it is. But come on, it's just for people. It's just going to be for people who really need it. It's just going to be for the kids with autism and those with severe Alzheimer's. It's not going to be, the program's not going to be abused. Oh, really? Well, Conservative Review discovers that autism, Alzheimer's disease, and other developmental disabilities are not defined in the bill, which prompts extra concerns for individuals who may lie somewhere on the autism spectrum but are capable of making decisions for themselves. Oh, no, Mr. and Mrs. Citizen, or whatever, you're not capable of making decisions for yourself. We're from the government, and we're here to help you. We're here to help you make a decision for you. And this is what I mean. If you recall, I beat this like a dead horse, that this is the kind of progressivism on parade here. This is a progressive framework that they're setting up. First they do this, they set up the framework where it's going to be, hold on a minute. I forgot to add something about the framework, because this is also in the progressive manual. Representative Goodlad made assurances that the program was voluntary and that no data would be collected. Yes, of course. So they set up the framework. They don't define it per se, because you just never know who's going to have to fall in within that framework. And they make it, and the first thing you do is you make it voluntary. All these programs are voluntary. The school lunch program was originally voluntary. All these programs are voluntary until not enough people sign on to it or people buck the system, and then voila, one day you wake up and the freaking system is mandatory. It's the same thing. It's going to happen here. It's ridiculous, and I cannot believe every election cycle we send Republicans up to the Hill, up to the House, and up to the Senate. We give them majorities, and this is what they do. They're just nothing but politicians. Paul Ryan, Mitch McConnell, they're all a bunch of bags of poo. Every single one of them, save for a select few in the House and an even more select few in the Senate. This is the way things always work on Capitol Hill. They don't work for us. We send them up there to shrink government, to get rid of regulations, and to stop making these stupid blankety-blanking rules and laws. And this is how they come up with. You set the framework, you make it voluntary, you don't define it, and then everybody's going to be surveilled eventually. And people say, well, you're a conspiracy wacko. Yeah, right. You wait and see. Why do you think they passed this thing in the 11th hour on the last day of the legislative lame duck session? Why do you think it bypassed the committee? They broke the rules because they wanted this thing done. For whatever reason, it's important for them to surveil us, and that's what the eventuality is going to be. Other than that, I don't feel strongly about it whatsoever. Let's take a break.
You're listening to the Common Constitutionalist. Let the truth be known.
So welcome back, and that was nice. A little Christmas music. Little Xmas music to get us going for the holidays. I like it. I'm going to start mixing some of them in as it gets closer to Christmas. Hooray. I like me some Christmas. We got the tree, trees up. We always get a regular tree and a Charlie Brown tree, which we decorate, and it's awesome also. And like I said a couple of podcasts ago or whatever, We go out into the woods, could be a mile, or actually this time was about a mile and a half in, mile and a half out. But, we go out there and we cut down our tree, and then Dad hauls it away. And one of the kids that are bigger than Dad at this point take the Charlie Brown tree, which weighs about a pound and a half. Woohoo. But at any rate, I love doing it. Wouldn't trade it for the world. Would trade the weather for the world, because this week it's supposed to top out around 20 every day. So, icky poo for that. Christmas, we like it. All right, so this one comes from the UK Daily Mail. And again, what is a podcast without a story from the Daily Mail? Love these guys. Seems that back in 1994, Ronald Burt Smith, Jr., no relation, I hope. He's from Alabama. I don't think I have any relatives in Alabama, so I'm safe. He was found guilty of murdering a store clerk in Alabama in 1994. The now 45-year-old jailbird, who's been in the clink since then, he pistol-whipped store clerk Casey Wilson and shot him in the head. And surveillance video actually showed Smith entering the store, and he actually recovered the spent shell casings so they couldn't use them as evidence after Wilson was shot. The court describes Smith's acts as an execution-style slaying. The prosecution likened him to killing... What? Let's try... The prosecution can't read, apparently. The prosecution likened the killing to an execution, saying the store clerk was beaten into submission first before being shot in the head in a crime that left the store clerk's infant... it doesn't say infant son or daughter, but he was... this kid's orphaned now, or I don't know where the mother is, but whatever. He's only got one parent, or he's got none. I don't know. Thanks to Mr. Ronald Burt Smith, Jr. So, it's been a long time. It's been 22 years, going on 23 years now, that Ronald Burt Smith, Jr. has been on death row. He's been on death row for that amount of time, and they're just now getting around to offing him, so to speak. I don't understand what the point of having a death row is if you're going to spend half your life on it without anything happening to you. But he was finally pronounced dead at 11:05 p.m. at the Holman Correctional Facility in Atmore, Alabama, where he was executed by lethal injection. That's the humane way to do it. Yes, indeed. During the execution, though, it appeared, at least to some, that he coughed and heaved for 13 minutes while being executed. Accounts say that Smith visibly struggled for nearly half of the 30-minute execution, clenching his fists and raising his head at the beginning of the procedure, raising question about whether or not the lethal injection is humane. Well, heck, we'll get to that in a second. I think you can probably guess where I'm heading on that one. A prison guard performed 2 consciousness checks before the final 2 lethal drugs were administered. During the first one, Smith moved his arm, and he raised his right arm again shortly after the second consciousness test. So let's just recap here real quick before we get into the, I don't know, not the details, whether this is right, wrong, humane, inhumane, whatever. Look at all the money that they've spent on this jamoke. Just the lethal injection procedure, where they have to build an entire room. They've got to get special beds. They have to have this bank. You've seen them in the movies. They've got these banks of vials with the cocktails in them that they flip the switch, Igor, and the guy flips the switch A, which is supposed to anesthetize the guy, put him to sleep, and then you off him, or I don't know I don't even care at that point. But at any rate, and then you've got a prison guard that has to be trained to check for consciousness, and then you've got to have a doctor certified that he's croaked, and all this other crap. Look at the expense just for this bag of dirt, who offed this poor guy, just a store clerk, and to top it off, they didn't even get away with it. It was a failed robbery attempt. So, I mean, this guy Casey Wilson got off for Zippo, for absolutely nothing. And we're concerned about the humane treatment of Ronald Burt Smith Jr., no relation. That's who we're concerned with, whether this is humane, whether he bucked around on a cart a little bit. Puh, yeah. So apparently the execution drug in question is called midazolam. Midazolam? Probably midazolam. And it's been criticized before by not being the proper sedative to use in the 3-drug lethal injection cocktail that the combination of the 3 or something like that. It's been criticized in a number of states, including executions in Oklahoma, Ohio, and Arizona, in which the inmates writhed and gasped, or the execution process was extended for long periods of time. As you go, you got to go out and refresh your drink if you're watching because it takes so bloody long. Or take a bathroom break. Excuse me, we stop? I need to go to the head. So you just postpone that cocktail for a second. I'm going to go take a leak, and I'll be right back, and then we can continue. Does it go like something like that? I don't know. And so the lawyers are complaining that Ronald Smith, they said that the movements Ronald Smith made during the Thursday execution demonstrate that he was not anesthetized properly. And some guys in other states, it's coming out that they use this midazolam stuff, and it's taken half hour, 45 minutes to kill these people off because the midazolam doesn't do its job properly or whatnot. Well, I'll tell you what, because I'm sick of this whole crap. If they get a guilty verdict, and it's cut and dry, it's open and shut, and apparently this was pretty bloody open and shut from the surveillance video that they had. They may not have seen him pull the trigger or plunge a knife in somebody's back or whatever, but they got everything else. I don't know whether they had a confession from this guy or whatever. And frankly, I don't care. From what I understand from this case, it was pretty open and shut. The guy was guilty as crap. And so what you do is you don't bring back hanging because that doesn't work. But I'll tell you what does work, and it works every time it's tried. Firing squad. That's what works greatest. And it's humane. It may not sound humane, but it's humane because if you get 3 or 4 guys that are really, really crack shots, and you set them up and you mow them down, and the dude's dead, before he can nod his head down, or slump, he's already dead. And that's the most humane way to off these people, and it's cheap. It costs what's like I don't know, a dozen bullets cost. $20, $30, whatever. $50. Okay, I don't know. You could even put silencers, suppressors on their weapons so it doesn't make all a bunch of noise and stuff. All you hear is thud, and the dude's dead, and you're done, and that's it. And, you set him up in a bucket so he doesn't bleed out all over the ground or something. I don't know. But it's you get over there, you say your piece, you say whatever, you have your last meal. I guess this guy was fried chicken and French fries or some nonsense. Why we have to give him a last meal is beyond me. The guy didn't give a rat's patoot about Casey Wilson when he pistol whipped him and then shot him in the head. He didn't care about him. Why the crap should we be so charitable toward this guy? I know that's what we should be, but it's really difficult to muster the charity for people like this. So that's what you do. The most humane thing to do isn't to make up all these ridiculously complicated ways to kill somebody. You line them up, you strap them to a board or something, you put them in a big bucket, and you go ready, aim, fire. You get 4 or 5, 3 or 4 guys, whatever it takes, to crack shots. They never miss. You set it up in some sort of alcove where there's no wind. There's nothing that can, the bullets can't stray. There's never going to be a problem with aiming. And you just pull the trigger, and before you know it, you're done. Boom, done. Clear your weapons. Go. Walk away. You can put hoods on these guys. You'll never know who they are. Whatever. I don't care. But this kind of crap is for the birds, and we hear this kind of stuff all the time. Oh, it's inhumane to kill them this way. Well, dude, you're killing them. I mean, what's the point? They're dirtbag murderers, and that's the way it goes. This is you do the crime, do the time, and when your time is up, you don't spend 22 years on death row. You take them out back, and you put 2 in the hat, and you're done, man. That's it. As long as you know they're guilty without a shadow of a doubt, that's it. Done. And so, on that Christmas, what a topic for Christmas. Ho, 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 Merry Christmas, boom. I think I'm all done for the day. Y'all have a blessed weekend, or at least a balance of it, and go out and do some more Christmas shopping, help Obama's economy out before the Trumpster gets into office. And that's all I've got. So this is the Common Constitutionalist, thanking you for listening, signing off, and I am out. See you.
Thank you for listening to the Common Constitutionalist Weekly Podcast.